Nessa segunda-feira, a Blizzard promoveu Diablo 3 aqui no Brasil, com cinematics na nossa língua e também uma entrevista com o produtor Alex Mayberry. Olha só. The first big thing that I want to talk about is I really like the between narrative and interactivity in Diablo games, because you have a lot of content but they don't seem like all over your face. It's a subtle thing. But in Diablo 3 you have more dialogue and more narrative. So what's the change in that?
We wanted to have more story. We wanted to really tell a story. But we had a lot of challenge to do that because story can interrupt gameplay. You know, nobody wants to sit there and have to listen to long dialogue and not be able to play. So we sort of came up with the idea to tell the story as you play. And once we got the initial story into the game, we then took another look and looked at every place where the story slowed us down. And then we streamlined it and we found ways to tell as you play. So if you play the beta and you have Leah following you, you're running to Adria's hut and she's giving you story information, but she's doing it as you play. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that we could present a rich story without, negatively impacting gameplay. I just want to give the writers real credit for that because they spent so much time revising it to make sure that the experience was good.
It's really hard, right, to measure up what you have in terms of narrative and interactivity, because Diablo is such an action game. But now you can hear yourself talking a lot, and I guess that was a good change, and people will feel more into their characters. And there's a lot of new classes. So why new? Why do you want to change the old classes?
So much time has passed since Diablo 2, and we have new technology available, and we didn't want to necessarily get tied to things that came before, but we still wanted to present the same type of experience. So we wanted to mix things up a bit. We did maintain the barbarian as kind of our iconic class, and the barbarian really is sort of consistent between each version of the game. But then we wanted to try some new directions. And so, it was more of the type of gameplay that we wanted to focus on, not necessarily the appearance. So we wanted to present these 5 different classes that offer a different way to play the same game. And this is just what we came up with, and what we had a lot of different ideas for lots of different things. But this is what we felt. This is what really resonated with us.
And in terms of story, you have the same world, and you have the Arcane, which is such a big character, and there's like prank videos on the internet about Dark Arcane. So how do you bring the same character and try to mix it up a bit?
Well, I mean, I think it just falls in line with this the story approach that we're taking. We want to make our characters more than just we want them to be deeper and not so shallow. We want them to have more presence. We spent a lot of time writing the dialogue and making sure that it felt good. And there are more characters that you'll interact with. Like in the beta, you play along with the Templar, but you'll also encounter the Scoundrel and the Enchantress, who all have different personalities. And what's really cool about our story approach is we have entirely different conversations depending on what character you are playing. So if you're playing a barbarian and you're running around with the Scoundrel, you may have an entirely different set of conversations than you would if you were playing the Wizard. So the story is worth hearing again with the different character classes, and our writers have done such a tremendous job, not just in the depths of the story, but just in the wit and humor. There's times, like if I play with the female wizard and the Scoundrel, their dialogue has me laughing half the time. I'm sitting here killing monsters and I'm laughing at the banter between them. So I just can't say enough about the success that our writers have achieved.
Transformaram a jovem garota em destemido instrumento de vingança contra as forças das trevas que acuam os inocentes.
With the companions, you can bring another side to the story, because you have 3 different characters. And I was told that the Enchantress character was really interested because she doesn't know how pretty she is and herself in the world. Can you tell us a little bit about the scoundrel? We don't know nothing about the scoundrel.
Well, he is a scoundrel, and you first encounter him in an altercation. There's a farm and a farmer's daughter, and there's a fight happening between the scoundrel and some men, and you really, there's a lot of innuendo, so you don't necessarily know what happened, but you know it was because he was a scoundrel.
You know it's his fault, right?
You just know he's done something. And even as you move away from this event, there is allusion to what happened with this farmer's daughter. And you never really find out exactly, but there's a lot of subtle innuendo that go, this guy's a real scoundrel.
Nice. And the other way is the interactivity, which all of this also has the other side. For example, the companions you use so that you have more strategic gameplay, because the game was very action driven, and now you have a lot of enemies, real enemies with different things. So did you spend a lot of time creating like real distinct enemies?
Oh yes, we have a very robust set of enemies, and we definitely create scenarios that take advantage of things that enemies can do, and then we take different enemies that have different abilities and place them into scenarios that really create a challenge, and the challenge may be tailored for whatever class you're playing. We offer the companions to help. If you want extra help, you can bring a companion along, but if you want the extra challenge, you leave them behind. And it's also fun to, you find gear, armor and weapons that you can't use, but you can give them to your companion, and you can choose abilities that your companion can use. So it's almost like having another ability. You have another set of abilities that are sort of playing along with your character. So we really like the way that the companions have turned out.
Vengeance!
On the other hand, your character, you cannot choose the set of skills. Now it's automatic. And now we think that maybe because you have a lot of narrative, now you need a faster kind of action or customization of your character.
You mean their abilities? In the first two games you had this big long talent tree, and you would have to go down specific paths to get the thing that you want. And we put so much effort into every skill, and not just the base skill, but the augmented skill, because you unlock runes that you can then apply to skills, and it presents this huge variety. And it just didn't feel right to limit what we had offered. And so many situations you get into call for different abilities. So we just sort of flattened out the skill tree. It's still actually there. It's just the way that it's presented and the way that it's unlocked. It opens it up to the players so that they're not stuck down a path that they can't come back from. And so if they encounter a situation where certain skills are just not working, they can just swap out to their new skills and try a different approach. So we put so much work into all of this. We wanted to open it up and not limit players. Presentation-wise, it's more simplistic, but in the end result, you have so much more available. So I would even argue that there's more customization. It's just the presentation is different.
So it reminded me of Dungeons and Dragons, because you have the wizard and the sorcerers, and one you have to pick your abilities like a kind of tree, and the other one you can just equip it, and the other day you reset it. Do you think that this set of changes will make the old Diablo player go like, I don't know, I can't customize it enough? Or do you think that while he's playing, he'll figure it out,
Yes, I think you're right. I've already seen people reacting to the fact that it's different, but they're also reacting to a very small slice of the game, and the beta version of the game, it's the intro. And so we're sort of controlling and steering players because we're teaching game mechanics. Once you get past the Skeleton King, the world starts to open up, and you start to gain more abilities and find new items and things that augment your player in very special, unique ways. And that's where I feel that those players are going to suddenly understand how this whole system lays out. You really haven't lost anything. It's just offered to you in a different way, and the end result is you get more.
There's a lot of co-op, right? You're planning a lot of co-op. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Well, sure. So the game is designed to be played in complete isolation by yourself, or if you want to play with others, you can play with up to 3 others for a total of 4. And we played with those numbers, and 4 felt right because we have so much happening on screen, so many monsters, so many effects that adding even more to that just made it very difficult to play. So we found the sweet spot of 4 players, and you can open your game up to your friends, or you can open your game up to the public, and people can just join at will. If you open up to the public, you can suddenly find 3 people in your game, and you're playing with people you don't know, or you can set it to a private game, and all of your friends can join. The other beauty is that, because we are online, we can connect to our other games. So if you're playing Diablo 3 and your friend is playing WoW, and you're like, hey, I opened my game up for you, and they can be like, hey, yeah, I will. When I finish my raid, I'll jump in, and you can be playing along, and all of a sudden, hey, their raid's done, and they jumped in. So we really wanted to allow for both the solitude, the player who wants to be alone, and the player who wants to play with friends. And the game increases the challenge accordingly by each person that comes in, so that as you get more players that come in, the odds go up, and everybody has to play together because there's more challenge. So the game itself is very good about catering to each playstyle.
O monge também regenera o espírito gasto, acertando golpes em seus inimigos.
You have one more difficulty range right now, right? You're launching another one, like go crazy if you want something really difficult.
Yes, it's a very different type of game in the sense that you can play through the entire content and beat the final boss, and you're not done, because you'll only be halfway leveled up at that point. So then you can start again from any point in the game, and you can start and change the difficulty setting, and now everything's harder, and you continue to get better loot, better gear, better armor. Monsters get more difficult. So the game continues to be playable. And then you combine that with the fact that the game, the world and the items and the monsters sort of build itself randomly with every playthrough. It means that the game is never quite the same each time you play it. So if you combine that randomness with the extended difficulty levels, it really combines to make the game sort of infinitely playable over and over again.
Also with classes and companions and everything you get to choose, right? Okay, what about PvP?
So we're absolutely going to launch PvP. We held it from the initial launch because, because of the randomness of this game, it's a very difficult game to balance. And we can't really balance it until we get all the features in, and we've still been putting features in. So we've now done our balance pass, but the focus was we have to get PvE right, which meant that's where our efforts were, and we felt that PvP, we showed it at BlizzCon, people played, it was off to a great start, but we have a certain level of quality we need to meet, and we felt that it was splitting our focus too much. And so we decided, people are really going to be playing through the story in the initial launch, so let's get that right. And then now, in fact, right now, people are finishing PvP. So it's not going to be a long wait. It's just we wanted to get it right. So we held it back, and it'll be out shortly after launch. I mean, I can't give an exact date because we have to do all the testing and bug fixing, but it's not way out there. It's fairly soon.
What's your favorite class to play?
Well, if I think nostalgically, it's the Barbarian, because I played Barbarian in Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, and in Diablo 3, Barbarian, you hit a zombie and he flies over a tree. It's amazing. You feel very strong. Just because of my love of the franchise, I love the Barbarian. But with that said, I worked on World of Warcraft for a number of years, and my last main character in WoW, and probably my favorite one, was my mage. And so when I got onto the Diablo 3 team, I started playing the Wizard a lot. And it was a good transition. And I love the Wizard for the same reason I love the Mage in WoW, because you're a glass cannon, you're fragile. And in Diablo 3, it comes out even more because you have so many enemies coming after you. But as you level up and you unlock all of these new skills and you learn which ones work in different situations, then you start chaining them together. So I would find that I'm just destroying these just mobs of enemies, and there's something very satisfying about knowing how fragile you are, and then you get in this big fight, and then there's just all these bodies and gold on the ground. So it's a real toss-up for me there in terms of favorites. It's hard to pick one, honestly. The Demon Hunter is also extremely fun. They're all fun in different ways, especially when it gets to the Witch Doctor, which not only is the Witch Doctor fun, but extremely unique and novel in the way that it plays. So they're all worth playing, and I think there's something for everybody.
I love the Witch Doctor. Was the one I finished the first time, and then I came back. But I'll give you a second option, okay? So you like the Barbarian, you play but what kind of producer are you? Are you a Demon Hunter kind of producer?
Probably Wizard again. Yeah, I don't know how that correlates. No, if you hit people with big axes, they get upset. Probably more like a Wizard. Just I like to have a lot of tools and abilities to draw from for different situations. Game development it's very hard, and one of the most challenging aspects of game development for a producer is the fact that you're dealing with really talented, creative people in different disciplines who all have different motivations but need to come together and work as one group. So as the producer, I need to be able to interface and understand the challenges that each group faces and what their motivations are, and then bring them together to produce something that's more than the sum of its parts.
Aside from that, can also say that he wants to look frail, but if you don't deliver the game on time, he will combo you. I think it's that. Yeah. So, how about Diablo 3 on console?
Okay, sure. I don't think it's any secret that we are exploring console. We've said as much. We have job openings. We have a console team that sits with us, and they are actively in research and development mode. The thing about console, we've tried console in the past. I worked on StarCraft Ghost. We're very ambitious, Blizzard, and the previous consoles might not have been up to our ambition, but the current consoles, we do feel are very viable for what we want to do, and we also feel that Diablo 3 is a very, very good game to look at for the console. We think that it will translate well. At the same time, we're not just going to port it over. We're Blizzard, we have higher expectations than that. So the goal right now is let's take our PC game and figure out, if we were going to put that on console, how will we change it so that it feels like a console game and not a PC game that was put on console. And I think if we can achieve that, we can move forward. But we're not going to officially announce that we're doing console until we know internally that we can do it. But that said, we have a team of people. We've hired some amazing console talent, some of the best I've ever seen. And I'm already seeing things that have me very excited. So it looks very promising.